Hi guys, welcome to my official 2024 Inktober compilation video where I illustrate and discuss 31 different urban legends, ghost stories, and mythological creatures. If you're interested, I have the entire collection available as prints as well as the original illustrations in my shop. There are also 2024 Inktober zines available which include each drawing paired with the story. The link to my shop and all my social media pages are in my bio, and while I have you here, I have to give a big thank you all for 100,000 subscribers. Your support means the world to me, and I'm so happy that you guys enjoyed this series as much as I did. Please subscribe for more art videos like this, and thank you for another amazing year of Inktober, starting off with the tale of Arachne. In Greek mythology, Arachne was a mortal woman who was well known for her exceptional skills in weaving. She boasted about her skills often, even claiming that her talents were better than the goddess Athena. Arachne challenged the goddess to a contest where they would both weave their own tapestries. Athena depicted the gods in majesty and glory, while Arachne showed the flaws and misdeeds of the gods. Despite Arachne's incredible talent, Athena was highly offended by the subject matter of her work. In a rage, she tore Arachne's tapestry to pieces and transformed her into a spider, condemning her to weave for eternity. Arachne's story serves as a reminder of the dangers of pride and disrespecting the gods. Stony Hollow Road is considered to be the most haunted road in the state of Iowa. According to legend, this road was the site of a tragic death in the 1800s. A woman named Lucinda was waiting to meet her husband on Stony Hollow Road late at night, but he was terribly late. Her thoughts began racing, thinking about what could have happened to him. She thought maybe something terrible had happened, or maybe he chose to run off with another woman. Lucinda couldn't stand the thought of being without him, so she walked over to a nearby cliff and jumped to her death. Tragically, her husband did show up to find her and had been delayed because his wagon was stuck in the mud. To this day, Lucinda's ghost haunts Stony Hollow Road and will appear if you say her name 3 times. If she lays a rose at your feet, legend says you will meet your demise the following day. Marzana is a Slavic goddess associated with winter, death, and the transition of seasons. Traditionally, she represents the coming of winter and the distant arrival of spring. She is one of 3 seasonal sisters in Slavic mythology that represent this natural cycle of life and death. As spring nears, people create dolls of straw decorated with various items. They then either burn the doll or drown it in a river or pond, allowing it to float away after a short while. The destruction of this straw doll is said to represent the arrival of spring, replacing the death and cold of winter. Marzana reflects the cultural significance of these seasonal changes and the hope for renewal and rebirth. Hel is a female being in Norse mythology who presides over the underworld realm. She watches over the spirits of the dead, particularly the souls of those who did not die a heroic death, but instead died of natural causes. Her realm, Helheim, is characterized by its coldness and gloom, often thought to resemble the darkness of physical graves. She is the daughter of Loki and the giantess Angrboda, and is often described as having a striking appearance. One half of her body is beautiful and alive, while the other half is decayed and corpse-like. This duality in her appearance symbolizes the balance between life and death. Hel represents the inevitability of death and the importance of acknowledging mortality. Despite her fearsome reputation, Hel is also depicted as a complex character who embodies the inevitability of death and the importance of honoring the dead. Ohaguro-bettari is a yokai who is often seen late at night loitering near temples or shrines. Yokai are supernatural beings from Japanese folklore that include ghosts, demons, monsters, and shapeshifters. From behind, the Ohaguro-bettari looks like a beautiful woman wearing a wedding kimono, disguising herself as a newlywed bride. She keeps her face concealed until the men get close, and when she finally turns to reveal her face, she has no features at all, except for a large, gaping mouth full of blackened teeth. Her name, Ohaguro-bettari, translates to nothing but blackened teeth. She follows up her victim's initial shock with a horrible cackle, sending the men running away and screaming in terror. The Flannan Isles are a group of isolated islands off the western coast of Scotland. These islands were always shrouded in mystery, and many believed a spirit haunted the islands. The greatest mystery of the Flannan Isles revolves around the unexplained disappearance of 3 lighthouse keepers in December of 1900. When a passing ship noticed the lighthouse was dark, a relief crew arrived and found the island in a mysterious state of disarray. There was no welcome from the lighthouse keepers, no flag on the flagstaff, and all gates and doors leading up to the compound were closed. The beds were unmade and all clocks were stopped, and there was absolutely no sign of the 3 lighthouse keepers. The log leading up to the men's disappearance included strange entries describing an awful storm, high winds, and low spirits amongst the men. Various theories have emerged over the years, including accidents, foul play, or even supernatural occurrences, but the true fate of the men remains a haunting mystery to this day. The legend of Hug and Molly is a local tale that originated in Abbeville, Alabama. It tells the story of a ghostly woman who roams the streets at night and is most known for her intimidating presence. According to legend, she's often described as an extremely tall figure wrapped in a dark cloak and a wide-brimmed hat. If she happens upon you, she chases you down, gives you a tight hug, and screams in your ear. Some believe the story originates from a local woman who had lost her own child and spent the remainder of her life wandering the streets, screaming at children until they went home. The story serves as a cautionary tale for children to stay indoors after dark and has become a cherished part of the town's history and culture. Melinoe is a Greek goddess of ghosts, nightmares, and madness. She became a powerful figure in Greek mythology, appearing in hymns of Orpheus and being revered as a bringer of nightmares. She is often depicted as a shadowy, ghostly figure with the ability to shapeshift, making her a powerful being in the realm of the supernatural. As a goddess of ghosts, she is able to practice necromancy and has divine authority and control over the dead. She was often invoked by those seeking guidance or communication with the spirits of their loved ones and was valued as a powerful protector of the dead. In the historic section of Mississippi's Glenwood Cemetery lies a grave surrounded by chain links known as the Witch's Grave. According to legend, an old woman living near the Yazoo River was caught luring in fishermen and torturing them. After discovering skeletons in the witch's shed one day, a local sheriff chased her through the swamps until she got stuck in quicksand. As she was sinking, she swore her revenge on Yazoo City and the townspeople, claiming that in 20 years she would return and burn the city to the ground. She was buried in Glenwood Cemetery, and large chains were placed around her grave to keep her spirit from coming back. Exactly 20 years after her death, a great fire destroyed over 200 homes and nearly every business in Yazoo City. The day after the fire, residents made their way to her grave, discovering that the chain links were broken. Current local lore says that when all of the chains are gone from her grave, the witch will return again to exact her revenge on the city. The Morrigan is a figure in Irish mythology that is typically associated with war, fate, and power. She is often depicted as a goddess or a trio of goddesses that embody the various aspects of battle and destiny. She is well known for her ability to shapeshift and is commonly portrayed as a crow or a raven, which are considered omens of death and destruction. Legend says that if a warrior sees the Morrigan washing their blood-stained clothes, it is a prediction of their death before going into battle. The Morrigan symbolizes the complexity of war, representing both its brutality and the deeper spiritual significance behind it. She serves as a reminder that true leadership comes with a deep understanding of the responsibilities tied to power and fate. The Witches of Belvoir were a mother and her 2 daughters who were accused of witchcraft in England in the 1600s. Joan Flowers and her daughters, Margaret and Philippa, were known to be herbal healers and came from a local family that had fallen on hard times. They accepted employment as servants at Belvoir Castle in England, and it was said that the rest of the staff were not too fond of them. They accused the 3 women of theft and other various misdeeds, which led to the women being dismissed from the castle. After the Flowers were dismissed, the family of the castle fell ill, suffering from vomiting and convulsions. Their 2 sons, Henry and Francis, died from their illnesses, leaving the family without an heir. 5 years after the Flowers family left Belvoir Castle, they were arrested for witchcraft. Joan continued to profess her innocence, and although she was not known to be a religious woman, she asked for bread as a substitute for the Eucharist while imprisoned. She claimed that something so blessed could not be consumed by a witch, but she choked and died after only taking 1 bite. Black Aggie is a folkloric name given to a statue formerly placed in Druid Ridge Cemetery in Pikesville, Maryland. The statue is a depiction of a mourning woman seated on a chair wearing a long, flowing shroud, and was placed on the grave of General Felix Agnes. Due to its ominous appearance, the memorial statue became the center of various ghost stories and urban legends in the 1950s. People believed its eyes would glow red at night or that they saw the statue moving on its own. Others claimed that spirits of the dead rose from their graves to gather around the statue and noted that no grass would ever grow in front of it. The most prominent rumor about Black Aggie was that if you sat on the figure's lap at midnight, you would meet your own demise within 2 weeks. Many people were caught breaking into the cemetery at night to pay Black Aggie a visit, and the statue was frequently vandalized. The Agnes family, disturbed by the attention the statue received, donated it to the Smithsonian in 1967. In 1969, on Egypt Plantation near Kruger, Mississippi, workmen accidentally came across a coffin while digging a septic tank line. They were shocked to discover that this expensive, glass-sealed, cast-iron coffin with a window was buried just 3 feet below the ground. Inside was a perfectly preserved young woman with long auburn hair and youthful skin. She was wearing a red velvet dress with a lace collar, white gloves, and leather square-toed boots. Experts estimated that she had been dead for at least 75 years upon being discovered. At that time, it was believed that Egypt Plantation was a stop for riverboats coming up the Yazoo River. Because of this, many speculated that the lady in red was a passenger on a riverboat when she died. They also speculated that the girl was hurriedly buried due to illness, likely yellow fever. To this day, no one truly knows who the lady in red was or why she was buried in a shallow, unmarked grave. The Mara is a malicious entity in Scandinavian folklore and Nordic legends associated with sleep and nightmares. The Mara is described as a being who would sit on the chest of a sleeping person and induce horrific dreams. The term nightmare itself comes from the Old English mare, which is another name for this supernatural being. The Mara was said to be able to take on many forms, but all stories shared the idea that she would creep into your house at night, approach you while you're sleeping, and sit on your chest. These feelings of suffocation and fear caused by the Mara align with the physical sensations some people experience during sleep paralysis. The Wookey Hole caves are a series of limestone caverns in Somerset, England. Local folklore claims these caves were once home to a malevolent witch. Anything that went wrong in the village was blamed on this woman who made the caves her home, from crops failing, cattle dying, or people disappearing. The villagers demanded that someone dealt with the witch, and a monk named Father Bernard was sent to investigate. Upon reaching the entrance of Wookey Hole, the monk made his way up to the cave, carrying holy objects to protect him. The witch fled deeper into the caves, and villagers warned Father Bernard not to follow her, as they believed the caves were the gateway to hell. He pushed onward, collecting some water from the river in his chalice, and blessed it. Not able to see where the witch was hiding, Father Bernard continuously sprinkled the holy water throughout the cave. Some water fell onto the witch, and she let out a blood-curdling scream, followed by an eerie silence. Shining his candle in the direction of the scream, Father Bernard saw that the witch had been turned to stone. In Arthurian legend, the Lady of the Lake is a mysterious and enchanting figure associated with the magical realm. She is best known for her role in giving King Arthur his iconic sword, Excalibur. There are several versions of her character, with some tales depicting her as a benevolent protector of Arthur, and others portraying her as more ambiguous or even vengeful. She is described as a beautiful woman who lives in a lake, who emerges from the water to present the sword Excalibur to Arthur, symbolizing his rightful sovereignty. The Lady of the Lake represents magic, femininity, and the intertwining of fate and destiny within the Arthurian saga. Her character has evolved over the centuries, making her a central figure in many adaptations and retellings of the Arthurian legends. The will-o'-the-wisp is described as an atmospheric ghostly light often seen near bogs, swamps, or marshes. This light is said to mislead travelers by resembling a flickering lamp or lantern. These lights are thought to be mischievous spirits or souls of the dead, tempting the living to follow them into dangerous terrain. They are often depicted as blue or green flames that vanish when approached. The will-o'-the-wisp metaphorically refers to a hope or goal that leads someone on but is impossible to reach, or leads you to something strange or sinister. This is why the will-o'-the-wisp is also referred to as the foolish flame. The will-o'-the-wisp serves as a cautionary symbol in various stories, representing the allure of the unknown and the potential dangers of wandering off the beaten path. St. Mary's Church is a historic church in the village of Akenham in Suffolk, England. The church dates back to the medieval period, with the earliest accounts dating from the late 13th century. In appearance, it's like any unassuming rural parish church along the English countryside, but in fact, it's the host of plenty of unusual folklore and supernatural phenomena. One local legend claims that the devil lies in St. Mary's under a split gravestone, sinisterly quiet, waiting for anyone brave enough to wake him from his slumber. Walking counterclockwise around the church 13 times is said to summon the devil, but the consequences of doing so are unknown. Caterina Sforza was an Italian noblewoman who was an influential figure during the Italian Renaissance. She was an early scientist who experimented with chemistry and medicine, quickly gaining notoriety for her intelligence, independence, and cleverness. Her manuscript recipe book counted 454 formulas compiled throughout her lifetime. These included remedies, the philosopher's stone, recipes to protect the body from disease, poisons and their antidotes, and even a way to bring the dead back to life. After her husband's assassination in 1488, she took on a significant role in defending her territories. She rallied her troops and famously brandished her own children as a symbol of her defiance, declaring she would rather die than let them fall into enemy hands. This act cemented her reputation as a fierce protector of her family and her city. In 1728, the French government arranged for women to travel to New Orleans, aiming to provide suitable wives for men and promote the growth of the population. When the women arrived, the men who were eagerly anticipating their arrival took note of how pale and sickly they looked. Each woman brought a large trunk with them that held their belongings, and they quickly became known as the Casket girls due to the size and shape of their trunks resembling coffins. They were sent to the Ursuline convent upon arrival to stay until they were ready to be married, and their caskets were stored in the attic for safekeeping. When the nuns went to open the chests, which were full and heavy upon the girls' arrival, they discovered that they were completely empty. The belongings were never recovered, and the nuns began to fear that the young women might have been something other than what they said they were. The doors to the attic were bolted shut with nails blessed by the Pope himself. Many speculated whether the Casket girls were vampires themselves or if they smuggled vampires into New Orleans with the coffins they traveled with. Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, located in Midlothian, Illinois, is known for its eerie atmosphere and numerous ghost stories. Established in the mid-19th century, it was originally a burial ground for early settlers and features graves dating back to the 1830s. The cemetery has gained notoriety for its reported paranormal activity. Visitors have claimed to see apparitions, mysterious lights, and even ghostly figures, including a spectral woman in a white robe. She first appeared in a photograph taken by a group of paranormal investigators exploring the cemetery in 1979. The woman has been reported to wander about the cemetery, specifically on nights when the moon is full. This combination of history, eerie ambience, and various ghost stories has made Bachelor's Grove a significant site of local folklore and a fascinating subject for those interested in the supernatural. The Vanishing Hitchhiker is a classic urban legend found in various cultures around the world. The story typically follows a familiar pattern where a driver sees a young woman in a white dress on the side of the road who appears lost or in need of help. The driver proceeds to ask if she needs a ride, and she quietly accepts. She's soft-spoken and doesn't say much aside from where she needs to go. Once they arrive at their destination, the driver discovers that the woman has mysteriously vanished from the car. Upon inquiring about the hitchhiker at the location, the driver discovers that the hitchhiker died in an accident that occurred there. Vanishing hitchhiker legends are so universal that there's an entire subfield of folklore research going back more than 80 years dedicated to tracking and unpacking them. These tales are likely modern incarnations of much, much older legends, and they continue to spread and evolve. The May Queen is a figure in folklore associated with the celebration of May Day in European traditions. She represents the spirit of spring and renewal, often embodying themes of fertility, growth, and the joys of the warmer months. The origins of the May Queen can be traced back to ancient pagan celebrations, where rituals were held to honor the earth's rejuvenation after winter. In many cultures, she was depicted as a young woman adorned with flowers, symbolizing beauty and fertility. Communities would choose a May Queen during festivities, and she would lead parades, dances, and other celebratory activities, such as maypole dancing, which is a prominent feature of May Day celebrations. Her role often involved invoking blessings for a fruitful harvest and promoting harmony in nature. The celebration of the May Queen continues in various forms, representing the transition from the cold, dark months of winter to the vibrant life of spring and summer. Chillingham Castle is a medieval castle in the northern part of Northumberland, England, built in the 12th century. It's well known for its rich history and its reputation as one of the most haunted castles in the UK. Visitors and staff have reported various ghostly encounters, including apparitions, cold spots, and the sound of footsteps in empty corridors. In the castle, there is a spot called the Inner Pantry, which was once a secure storage for the castle's silver. To ensure its safety, a footman would sleep there. One particular night, the footman was startled by the unexpected presence of a lady dressed in white, appearing frail and asking for water. Believing she was a castle guest, he turned to obey. He soon realized that the room was locked from the inside and that no one should be here with him. This mysterious lady still appears from time to time, and some speculate that her thirst for water indicates that she was poisoned. Hecate is the Greek goddess of magic, witchcraft, ghosts, and necromancy. She is typically depicted as a triple goddess. This triadic representation reflects her connection to the cycles of life and the phases of the moon. In mythology, Hecate is associated with the underworld, acting as a guide for souls and a protector of the home. She is often depicted with dogs, which are considered sacred to her, and is associated with nighttime and the supernatural. Hecate is also linked to crossroads and boundaries, symbolizing choices and transitions. Hecate's enduring presence in literature, art, and modern spirituality showcases her significance as a complex and multifaceted deity. The Moroi are figures from Romanian folklore often associated with vampire legends. They are typically described as the spirits of the dead who rise from their graves to haunt the living and drain their energy, particularly at night. Unlike the more famous vampire archetype, Moroi are usually depicted as more ghostly and less human. The Moroi are said to be the souls of unbaptized children or adults and are often depicted as pale, gaunt, and shadowy figures, reflecting their otherworldly nature. Moroi are part of a broader tradition of beliefs in the undead across various cultures. They represent fears of death and the unknown, as well as the consequences of a life lived in turmoil or malice. Gullveig is a female figure in Norse mythology who is described as a sorceress associated with the legendary conflict between Aesir and Vanir. She was speared by Aesir, burnt 3 times, and thrice reborn. Upon her 3rd rebirth, she began practicing magic and took on a new name. In the narrative, Gullveig is associated with the destructive aspects of greed and the desire for riches, which leads to conflict among the gods. Her character reflects the dual nature of wealth, both its allure and the chaos it can cause. The name Gullveig itself can be translated to mean gold drink or the one who drinks gold, further emphasizing her connection to wealth. She is sometimes held as a personification of gold itself, purified through repeated smelting. Iele are mythical creatures from Romanian folklore. While there are several different descriptions for their characteristics, they are often depicted as fairies with great seductive powers and magical skills and attributes. They mostly appear at night, dancing in secluded areas such as glades, on the tops of maple trees, or in abandoned fireplaces. They are often naked, covered only by their disheveled hair, with bells around their ankles and candles in hand. Following their dance, the grounds they danced on would be scorched, and no grass would grow in that area for some time. They are not necessarily evil, however, they often punish anyone who refuses to join them in dance. Additionally, they are similar to sirens as they use their voice to lure in potential victims. Necromancy is the practice of magic involving communication with the dead by summoning their spirits as apparitions or visions for the purpose of divination. People who practice necromancy often call upon these spirits to foretell future events and discover hidden knowledge. In ancient cultures, necromancy was often intertwined with religion and rituals. For example, the Greeks practiced it through oracles, seeking to consult the dead for guidance. During the Middle Ages, necromancy was sometimes linked to witchcraft and heresy. Many texts from this era warned against its practices, associating it with evil and darkness. Necromancy often explores themes of power, the consequences of defying natural laws, and the morality of using the dead for personal gain. The historic Avanel House in Bedford, Virginia is full of history and is home to one of the most iconic ghost stories in the area. Local folklore claims that the apparition of a woman in a white dress can often be seen around the Avanel House. People have debated the identity of this lady in white, but the most common theory is that she is the ghost of Mary Frances. Legend claims she stayed on the front porch waiting for her husband to come home from the Civil War, but he never did. Her spirit is commonly seen in a white gown holding a parasol. Visitors of the Avanel House claim that they hear the sounds of rustling hoop skirts when she is near. Catacombs are man-made underground passages used for religious purposes, particularly for burial. The Paris catacombs in particular draw thousands of visitors a year, but few know the macabre tunnel's unusual history. The city's rapid growth was causing its cemeteries to overflow with the bodies of the dead, with its largest cemetery containing 2 million bodies. This major public health problem led to the difficult decision to transfer their contents to an underground site, becoming one of the largest transmissions of human remains in history. As they were being built, the quarrymen lined the walls with tibias and femurs punctuated with skulls, which formed the basis of most of the decorations that tourists see today. Both out of whimsy and to convey deeper religious messages about death, they also arranged bones in various shapes, like hearts, circles, and death heads. Today, the Paris catacombs are not only a historical site, but also a reminder of the city's complex relationship with death and its efforts to confront public health challenges. As always, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!